You know, I'm working with young men. I get a chance to see all the different personalities and aspects that we actually have growing up in the black community. You know, you have young black men that are doing well, and there's not a lot of emphasis or focus that's put on these young men. They're graduating from high school with good grades, they're graduating from college, they're going off to live a life. But there's not a focus on these young men that are doing well. The major focus is on the trauma that goes on in the black community and young men that are running around slaughtering each other. And the reason why I titled this video, His Life Was Not Yours to Take. Because in our community, we've normalized killing each other. We've normalized death. I mean, it's to the point where when I sit back and I look at myself, I had a birthday yesterday, I'm well into my 40s. I remember growing up, there'd be a dead body on the ground, or going to school, and early in the morning, you'll see the police out there, things taped out, it'd be a body on the ground with a white sheet over it with a bunch of red on it. And they'll come, they'll clean up the body, and then 2 hours later, you know, they'll wash the blood off. 2 hours later, you'll go off into your life as if nothing ever happened. We just normalize death. It's just normal. This is just a way of life for young black men in the communities that we come from. So to murder or to shoot or to hurt, man, it means nothing. It means nothing to us. And that's part of the trauma, because his life was never yours to take. But we're trained and we're taught in the communities that we come from to not value life. A lot of us growing up in the 80s and 90s, and it's applicable to now, right? We didn't even think that we was going to live to be 20 or 25. So we didn't think about the future. We didn't think about legacy. I didn't see the future of myself or see myself as somebody that can aspire to greatness. So why would I ever value your life, right? Why would I ever value your life? I didn't even value my own. These are the mental conditionings that they put on us as a young men. And working with young men, the task that we do is to get them to understand that they're not who they said they were, who they were told they was. You're not an N-word. Our children are running around, our young men are running around saying they on demon time. They real niggas, they real N-words. And the biggest obstacle that we go through out here is trying to get young black men to understand that you're not that. Because we use words to destroy and kill ourselves. We use words to talk down to each other. We use words to actually create a life or put us in a vacuum that's not good for us. And it's hard to get out of it. Some young men are going to jail at 21 years old and they waking up in prison at 31, realizing that they're never ever going to get out. And your dysfunction is profitable for somebody else. Somebody else is benefiting and profiting from your dysfunction. Other groups are planning 10, 15, and 20 years in advance. Corporations and structured systems based off the death, the death consciousness of young black men. From music to clothes to gun manufacturers, everything is benefiting from it. His life was not yours to take. I can get a gun and go shoot another black man and then go sit on the steps and smoke weed with the homies like it's nothing. I get a gun and go blow a young black man's head off and go to my girl's house and get some sex like it's nothing. Get up the next day and just go on with my life like it's nothing. You got young guys out here running around with 4, 5, 6, 7 homicides, man. And they running around like it's nothing. They don't value life because they never saw the value in themselves, because we're coming up in a system of dysfunction. So if I can shoot you in your face and I can go home, get some coochie for my girl, wake up in the morning, put my clothes on, go on to life like it's nothing, there's something wrong there. There's a mental block. Something's wrong. That's not normal, but we've been conditioned to believe that that is normal. That is normal, because that's the way a lot of us lived. That's the way a lot of our youth live their life now. Now how do we change that? I'm asking that a lot of the rappers, a lot of the black people in the black community, when do you begin to say enough is enough and no? When do you start putting demands See, because it's not the white man's responsibility. It's not the Asian man's responsibility. It's not the Arab man's responsibility. It's not the continental African's responsibility. It's none of those other groups' responsibility. We live in America. We're the black Americans. This is our responsibility to clean up our own stuff. And we know that young black boys are not valuing life, and they're just taking life in a heartbeat across America. When do we start putting demands on our own people to make change? Or do you just sit there and be quiet and say nothing and just allow things to happen? Because here in Philadelphia, young black boys will grab a machine gun and just shoot into a crowd of people. And then we can say, okay, well, go lock them up. But that's not going to stop the problem. You have to stop the consciousness that's creating the problem. Where is this consciousness come from? Who's creating the consciousness? Who's benefiting from that thought process? When you hear young rappers making music, talking about slaughtering and killing, and I'm on demon time, where is that consciousness coming from? Who's economically benefiting from those words of destruction? If we're not going to focus on that, if we're not going to directly make that a direct enemy, those words is a direct enemy to black Americans, to FBA Americans, then what are we talking about? What are we complaining about? We just saw Gilly the Kid's son get killed. But yet and still, I haven't seen any of the rappers that are black people that come from the same communities we come from denounce the killing in music. Denounce the gangsterism in music without a message. See, you can have the gangsterism, but it has to have a message at the end. It has to have a message of what the outcome would be. So to deter the consciousness from indulging in that which would kill you. It can't encourage. But I haven't seen none of the rappers. I haven't seen Jay-Z. I haven't seen Nas. I haven't seen none of the OGs sit down with the young guys and start talking about a change in the words, because we use words to destroy ourselves. So now we use words to bring life, to breathe life. I haven't seen none of that. I haven't seen none of the black politicians starting putting demands on anything. It's quiet in the black community because you have certain people, black people, that are benefiting from the status quo that's happening. Young black boys like this, they start off young and innocent, and then their innocence is taken from them at a very young age. Some of them are molested. Some of them have abandonment issues. Some of them witness their friends being murdered, and their hearts turn cold. Some of them may not witness their friends being murdered, but by the end of a school year, they have 4 and 5 friends that was murdered or shot. And that innocence begins to be taken away because the love that they have for their people begins to wane, because they look at their own people. They'll say, well, a white man never did nothing to me. A Chinese man never did nothing to me. Anybody ever did anything to me or hurt my heart was somebody that looked like me. So you start to look at your same people through the same stereotypical lens as the world looks at you through. And you see no value in them no more. Because as a young man with an undeveloped brain, you say, man, wasn't nobody but black niggas that killed my homies. So now a brother becomes your enemy. And then it means nothing for you to go take a life. And it's a cycle that repeats itself. And I keep asking, who's economically benefiting from black boys killing each other? It ain't the community, but it's somebody else in the system of capitalism. If it was a problem, they would stop it. But it's too much residuals on it. It's too much residuals on it. A lot of money on black bodies. Blood being spilled in the streets. A lot of money. Just asking. His life wasn't yours to take. But who's dealing with the mindset of the young men? Who's working to change the mind of the young man when he understands? A lot of us started in the streets just like this young man, innocent. Till we saw things that a young undeveloped mind shouldn't have saw, and it turned our hearts cold. And if some of us live long enough to mature out of it, we start to see the error in our ways, and we start to renew our minds. We start to not be conform to this world, so we start to transform our minds back to our natural state. And now I know that his life wasn't mine to take. But at 20, I didn't understand that. Because at 20, a brother that was my reflection, that looked like me, was my ops. Not realizing that somebody else was benefiting from that thought process. So if you ain't putting a demand, if you're not putting a demand on the change of the consciousness, I'm talking to you out there that might watch this video. All of you have a responsibility. Don't cry when it's your son next. I'm gonna end it right here. Leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think. What's your opinion? Remember, I love y'all. Till the next time. Peace.